Hey, welcome to Craft Central Designs. My name is Dwynn, and today is the first autumn decor tutorial of several to come. Each piece will be unique and beautiful, so I hope you will be tuned in to those future tutorials as well. Today, I have for you this beautiful burlap decorated pumpkin. I brought it outside in the natural light so you could get a very good close-up look at all of the beautiful colors. Welcome back to my subscribers and to my new subscribers and to those visiting my channel who are contemplating subscribing. I appreciate you all. Okay, let's get busy creating this lovely fall decor piece. Let's look at the items that we will need to create this piece. I purchased this paper mache pumpkin from Hobby Lobby. These pumpkins are meant to be finished or completed as you would like it, whether it be paint or fabric or whatever finish you would like on the pumpkin. Now, because these pumpkins have a very short stem, I like to create an extender on the stem, and I use a piece of styrofoam, which I picked up at Dollar Tree, and I created my own stem so that I would have a stem sticking up beyond all the florals that I'm going to be putting on the top of there. I made a number of these pumpkins last year, and so I'm very sure about one thing, and that's that little short stem would be very lost underneath those florals. So I'll show you how I made that stem later. We have some plaster, Waverly plaster chalk paint there, and some burlap, which I purchased by the yard at Hobby Lobby. I love their burlap. It's a nice dense texture and a beautiful color. We have some Mod Podge there, and as well an applicator and some jute twine. Now, I'm not sure, well, actually I'm sure now, but as I started this project, I wasn't sure if I was going to be using that cotton cord there from Dollar Tree or a jute twine, but I do use that as a definition line between each section in that pumpkin. You'll know what I mean by that in a bit. I'll show you what I mean by that. Okay, you have a choice of the most beautiful sunflowers that can be purchased at Hobby Lobby, and these are 40% off right now. I'm going to be using the white one, but either of those other colors, as well as yellow, would just be beautiful. But I'm staying with the more fall colors, in the natural colors with this piece. I have some jute ribbon there that I purchased on Amazon. I ended up just using those two on the left side, the striped and the checked ribbon. I purchased those on Amazon as well, but you could use any of those ribbons that you saw me show you there, including that beautiful off-white color burlap, which is a Celebrate ribbon from Michaels. You do you. You choose your ribbons. I chose the ones that I liked for this piece. I'm keeping all of my colors on this piece of very natural, soft cream colors, beiges, and colors that are just very, very natural, muted colors. I have some various picks that I picked up at Hobby Lobby, and some leaves, again in this natural color family, if you will. the very light browns, the creams. You get the idea. You need scissors, a hot glue gun, some pipe cleaners, and glue sticks, of course. And I use a Gorilla hot glue gun. Also, I purchased this bag of very small pine cones. Absolutely love these. I use these on so many projects for fall decor, but also for the Christmas season. They're beautiful on wreaths and Christmas decor. And I wanted to mention as well that this paper mache pumpkin is much less expensive than the other finished pumpkins at Hobby Lobby. Another reason why I like doing my own. It's quite considerably less in cost. Now, I cut out a rather crude looking stem. It doesn't have to be beautiful. The main thing is that you have a stem that sticks up beyond your florals. You don't want to have your florals and your bow on there and have no apparent stem sticking up. So I just take a kitchen knife, or you could use any kind of tool that you have to shape that styrofoam. Now, this stem is going to look a little bit funky until it's wrapped with burlap, which we'll do later. But I go ahead and place that on the short stem that's provided on that paper mache pumpkin. And we're not going to think too much about that stem for a while because we have a lot to do before we get to the point where we're going to be wrapping that with jute twine. And yes, it looks a little bit silly now, but I promise it's going to look much better when we get on into this project. First thing I'm going to do is paint my pumpkin with that plaster chalk paint Waverly brand. I just give it one good coat. I cover the whole entire pumpkin, and this will create a nice base color underneath the burlap, which we're going to be applying to each section of that pumpkin. There are 7 sections. I cut out enough pieces, which would be 7, to cover each section of that pumpkin. I cut my pieces 13 inches long and 7 inches wide, and I do iron them. I don't want any creases or bulges or anything in my burlap. I want it nice and smooth. So I've already done I think 5 of those sections already, but I'm going to show you how I apply that burlap to the pumpkin. So I take my Mod Podge with a sponge applicator, and I start at the top of one of these sections. I do one section at a time. I place my burlap down right at the base of the stem, and I do a section at a time of each section, if that makes sense. So basically, I do the top third of the section, and see how I'm placing my fingers and the heel of my hand down in those crevices that divide the sections. Now, this is a little bit of a tedious process, but I think it just turns out so beautiful, this burlap covered pumpkin. Now I'm working on my second third of that section. I do one section at a time. I take my fingers, I press into the crevices that divide the sections of that pumpkin. I apply a generous portion of Mod Podge. If you feel that any of your areas are a bit dry and the burlap is not adhering, just simply add more Mod Podge. Now I'm doing the bottom third. As I go along, I'm pressing and really adhering that burlap to that section of the pumpkin. See how I pull my fabric? I use the heels of my hand, my fingers. I press it down, really concentrating on getting a nice smooth finish and a nice smooth application of that beautiful burlap that I purchased from Hobby Lobby. I love their burlap. I'm just working my way all the way down to the bottom of that section. Adding my Mod Podge as need be. I'm going to bring this all the way down to the bottom of that pumpkin, around the middle of the bottom of that pumpkin. I do cut a little slit right on the bottom. It helps to kind of round off that section of burlap. It doesn't matter if you have a tiny bit of overlap there on the bottom, because you're not going to see that anyway. The main thing is just keep using your hands. This is a bit messy, and it's a great way to ruin a manicure, that's for sure. But it all washes off, so it's okay. It's okay to get messy while we craft. And this is how I created that burlap covered pumpkin. Now what we have to do is trim away the excess. Now this is very important that you press very firmly your fingers into the seam, because this is going to help you see where you need to cut away your fabric. Take your time. Expect to get some Mod Podge on your scissors. That's okay, it wipes away. Now after I make my cuts, I press and press and press to make sure everything is pressed down into I'm calling them seams, but the dividing line in between the sections of the pumpkin. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. If you cut your excess away and you cut it a little bit too far, it's okay. Just make up that area with your next piece that comes that's going to be placed on the pumpkin right after you finish that area, if that made any sense at all. Point being, you can compensate if you cut away a little too much when you place your next piece on. That's what I was trying to say. Now remember, these seams as well don't have to be perfect, because what we're going to do is you can use jute twine or that cotton cord, which is what I'm going to use. It just goes so beautifully with that burlap. That cord from Dollar Tree that I love and use on so many projects. So those seams don't have to be perfect, because in fact they're going to be covered up with the cord. If you see any areas that need a little bit of extra Mod Podge, maybe they're lifting a little bit, just add Mod Podge. It's very easy, very simple. to correct any kind of mistakes or any flaws in the piece. Mod Podge is amazing for that. I cut out a circle of burlap to finish off the bottom of my piece. I believe it was 5 inches round. I just used a lid from a container, and I just cut out a circle, and I used Mod Podge to adhere that circle to the bottom of the piece. Now we're going to be making a bow. Surprise, surprise. I mean, how many bows can you see me make? If you follow my channel, you must be like, oh, here she goes again. But bows are just an amazing addition to embellish a piece. And I love a beautiful ribbon, and this one is very beautiful. It's very crisp, and the texture of this ribbon is so beautiful. Of course, it's wired. I'm going to be creating a bow for this piece. This is the base. I've used the fold over loop method. Catch it in the middle with my thumb and my index finger. And I'm going to use a pipe cleaner to secure that. So as you can see there, I have 2 loops on each side. This is not a bow tutorial. I'm actually sped this up a bit, so you're seeing me do this very quickly. I have bow tutorials where I do it very slowly and methodically and explain it in great detail. I will put those bow tutorials in the description box. This is the base of my bow that's going to go on my pumpkin. I angle my tails, and as I always say, you do you. If you like them dovetailed, I like mine angled. This bow is going to go right on top of that pumpkin. Those loops are 10 inches in length if you want to measure out the amount of ribbon for each loop. And also the tails are 10 inches long. Now I'm going to be creating the top tier of that bow. I love this ribbon. It's so pretty. Again, same quality, just a phenomenal ribbon it's going to hold its shape for a long time to come. I'm using again the fold over method, catching it in the middle with my thumb and my index finger. These loops are 8 inches long in length if you want to measure them out. And I'm doing 1 single loop to sit right on top of the 2 loops on each side. The length of that loop is about 6 inches. So this top tier is going to have 2 loops on each side and 1 loop sitting on top of the 2 loops on each side, just a little bit smaller. I'm going to put a pipe cleaner around that, twist it in the back. And this is a very pretty bow. I'm going to twist the ribbon there, always, to make sure you have the right side up. You always give it a twist. We're going to fold that a nice loop under, catch it with my thumb there. Again, watch my bow tutorials. I will make this process simple and explain it very explicitly. Watch my tutorials on how to make a bow. I fed my pipe cleaner right through the center of that loop. Now everything is secure. I'm going to cut my other tail off from the spool, matching it up with the one that I originally started with, which was about 10 inches. Twist my ribbon so I have the right side up. Now I am going to marry up those tails on the bottom by feeding that tail that was on the top right through that center loop. And now we have both of our tails on one side of the bow. This top tier, as I refer to it, is going to be attached to the base, which is that beautiful, I guess it's a buffalo check ribbon. I love mixing my patterns of my ribbons, if you follow me. And my channel, you know that I almost always mix my patterns of my ribbons and my bows. Now we're going to separate those tails down the middle. And we're going to take that pipe cleaner, feed it right through that loop. We're going to attach those two bows together in the back by twisting the pipe cleaner. And now they are secure and attached. I cut those off because I don't need to attach that bow by the pipe cleaner tails. I'm going to be hot gluing that bow right directly onto the burlap on that pumpkin. This is a very, very pretty ribbon. That bow's going to go a little bit off to the side on the top of that pumpkin. So now we have our burlap on. We have our bow made. Now what we're going to do is define the lines that separate the sections of that pumpkin. This is a beautiful finished look for this pumpkin, and it's very, very pretty once you see it all applied. You can use jute twine if you like, or jute cord. There's an even finer jute cord, but I'm not going to recommend that you use a very thin one if this is the first time that you're applying burlap to a pumpkin, because your seams would have to be really perfect to use that tiny, tiny, thin cord. If you use a thicker cord, it kind of hides any little areas where maybe you didn't cut the burlap absolutely perfectly, but you can use that jute cord for wrapping that stem. I'm going to put a little dab of hot glue right at the base of the stem. And I'm going to simply glue my cotton cord right down the middle of the section that divides those pumpkin sections. Did that make sense? I'm not sure. It's a good idea to use your finger protector here because you're going to be pressing down that cotton cord. Just use a fine line of glue. Be careful you don't blob it heavily. You don't need much. And you're going to bring that cord all the way down to the bottom, doing it small sections at a time. And I ended my cord right at the line where that burlap circle is on the bottom of the pumpkin. And I just simply cut it off with my scissors. You're going to do the same thing for every line that separates the sections of that pumpkin. Using your finger protector, you will be able to press down the cord and really get it very well positioned within that seam. And go all the way around and do every seam. Now, I wrapped my stem, which looks pretty funky right now. Okay, it looks kind of silly, but no worries because I promise you're not going to notice that in the end. I needed it for that stem to stick up, and that is accomplished even though my stem looks rather odd. Okay, that's all right. Okay, so I'm going to put a dab of glue on my sunflower, and I'm going to adhere that right on top, tucked up right at the base of that funky stem of mine. And it's going to hide the rather weird shape of my stem. Again, that's why that stem just did not need to be perfect, and you're going to see why here very soon by the time I put the bow on and the sunflower and all of the leaves and the beautiful fillers that's going to go on this pumpkin. You're not going to see that kind of funky shape of my stem. You're going to be decorating this entire pumpkin, front and back. It will have a best side, if you will, just like most any floral arrangement. And just like any floral arrangement, I always say to you, if you follow my channel, start with your largest elements. And this, of course, would be this absolutely fabulous sunflower. You're going to keep in mind that your bow is going to be on top of your pumpkin on the opposite side. So you'll want to make room for that and be careful not to fill it up with all of your florals. I'm going to add my leaves now because they are one of the larger elements. I'm going to frame out my sunflower here. These leaves are so pretty. Now I'm going to use some of my chunky, I guess I'll call them berries. And I'm going to add those because in actuality, those are one of the bigger elements on this pumpkin. Now you will want some of your, let's call them florals, to trail down your pumpkin for visual interest. I actually have a couple of different types of berries. I have some that are very small. We'll be using those as well. And I also have some pitberry stems with acorns. And of course, those very small pine cones, which add so much beauty to the piece. Now, you need to, if you're new to this type of designing or floral designing, you may want to try and place out your pieces before you glue them down, or have a good idea where you want to put everything. I generally do that if it's like a wreath, but in this case, I actually have made quite a few of these, so I'm very certain where I want everything. But I'm just careful as I go along to create balance and symmetry and visual interest. And here we have that beautiful pick from Hobby Lobby with the acorns on it. I just love this on this piece. Now you can, if you like, take some of those wires with the pit berries on it, and you can just wrap them around a pencil and create a little bit of a coiled wire. And that's a nice look as well for a piece like this. Now it's a good time to have that finger protector. As you can see, I have mine on. I try to frame out my largest pieces as much as possible. Work it around the chunky berries, if you will, and insert my pine cones in any areas that need a little something. There's those little white berries that are so pretty. Now I'm going to take that other spray with the pit berries and the acorns, and I'm going to place that on the other side just to create some balance. And I put my hand there because I'm reminding you that that bow is going to sit on there. So I did place my bow on, and I hot glued that bow down. Now you see my stem is visible there, but you no longer see its kind of funny shape. Okay, but it does, it's nice to have that burlap stem sticking up in there, because if it had no stem at all, it would look a little bit unfinished. So remember to pay attention to the back of the pumpkin as well, but as obviously you can see there, it does have a front side to this arrangement. But if this is a centerpiece on a table, you want to be mindful to have the decorations, and there's the back side. You can see it's very pretty, very well decorated in the back. Very pretty. See how I insert my pine cones up in there, up in those little empty spaces to fill. Oh, it's so pretty. I just love this piece. I've done quite a few of these and different designs. I'm going to be showing you more pumpkin designs coming up in future tutorials. There's that burlap stem. Doesn't look so weird anymore. Now it looks a little bit better, right? So pretty. Now, I mentioned the pitberry garland, but also the same thing for that spray that has the acorns on it. I mentioned about wrapping it around a pencil. I thought I would just show you that. It's quite simple. Just hold one end, wrap and wrap, slide it off the pencil, and then you can shape that piece any way you like. But I think it's just so pretty to do that with that pitberry garland and insert it into the arrangement. I really love that look. And here you have a really, really beautiful centerpiece for a table or a counter or a mantle, wherever you'd like to place it. And again, one last look. I hope you will consider creating this beautiful pumpkin decor for yourself. Please remember to subscribe. I am a relatively new channel of only a few months, and I'm inching my way gradually to 1,000 subscribers. So please give this video a thumbs up if you like my content and leave me your comments. Okay, until next time, you all take care.